Party Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move that we recognize Representative Presley C. De Jesus of Partylist PHILRECA to avail of the privileged hour. So move, Madam Speaker.
Representative Presley C. De Jesus of Partylist PHILRECA is now recognized.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Sa lahat na aking kasamahan na ngayon nasa plenaryo at virtually sa Zoom. At mga minamahal kong kababayan na nakusubaybay sa ating session, isang mapagpalang araw po sa ating lahat. I stand before this body to express my utmost concern and serious distress. As a representative of the rural energy sector on the blatant harassment and unfair treatment that the Benguet Electric Cooperative has been receiving from the National Electrification Administration, or NEA. I rise today on a matter of personal and collective privilege to inform my constituents about the battles our electric cooperatives are faced with. Madam Speaker, for the last several months, we have witnessed time and again the lack of respect showed by NEA through their actions, not only to Benguet Electric Cooperative, but also to this institution, composed of esteemed representatives duly elected by the people. The adoption of the House Resolution number 213, which urged the NEA Board of Administrators to strictly adhere to and comply with the provisions of their own policy on the selection of general managers of electric cooperatives, particularly on the case of the Benguet Electric Cooperative, did not hinder the NEA from continuously harassing the officials and employees of Benguet Electric Cooperative, who are just trying to execute their duties in accordance with the policy we have in place. Madam Speaker, dear colleagues, the said resolution urged the NEA to maintain the status quo on retaining the current officer in charge of the BENECO under pain of contempt until all issues on the selection of the general manager of the cooperative have been traced out by the parties and properly resolved. It also expressly recognized the NEA's commission of repeated ultra-vires acts and warned its official against perpetrating the same again. Malinaw na malinaw naman po ang posisyon ng Kongreso patungkol sa usaping ito. Through the adoption of House Resolution number 213, we resolve to ensure that the laws we pass are enforced properly by the government instrumentalities that we trust to uphold the systems and processes in place. Malinaw na malinaw din na isinawalang bahala ito ng NEA. Isang buwan matapos sa pagpasa ng nasabing House Resolution, lubos na kinagulat at kinabahala ng representasyong ito ang mga sumusunod na akbang at desisyon ng NEA. They did the exact opposite of what was asked from them by this body. On a Monday morning, October 18, 2:40 a.m., NEA barged into the BENECO main office accompanied by Police Regional Office Cordillera personnel were all dressed in full battle gear. They forced open locked doors of the main office to insist the general manager of their choice. Computers and the like paraphernalia are reportedly confiscated without permission from the management, while concerned Benguet Electric Cooperative employees were barred from entering their own office with no clear reason why. As you will see in this short clip, this is how the NEA forced entry into the BENECO headquarters at almost 3 o'clock in the morning. Video, please. To make matters worse, this hostile invasion of Benguet Electric Cooperative was carried out when its warriors of light had their hands full with the rehabilitation of damaged infrastructure caused by the Typhoon Maring. Let's put ourselves in the position of the BENECO employees and workers to really understand how atrocious and unethical the actions of NEA have been towards them. Mr. Speaker, from the raid-like takeover alone, maraming katanungan ang dapat mabigyan ng linaw ng NEA. This unscrupulous attempt to take over the BENECO office by NEA was allegedly done to enforce a suspension order for the Board of Directors of BENECO for willful violation of NEA rules. If that is really the case, bakit kinakailangan na gawin ito ng 3:00 ng madaling araw? Kasama mga pulis na may bitbit na armas, why was there a need to use force and intimidation against cooperative employees? Employees who then feared for their life and safety, which in turn affected the service being provided by the EC to their member consumer owners. It is a wonder as well how they freely accuse the BENECO BOD of violating NEA's policies when it is clear that the members of the BOD are the ones empowered by the law to appoint the general manager of their own cooperative. This is an obvious display of power tripping on the part of NEA to pressure the BOD to bow down to their commands. Another dubious misstep NEA took is the appointment of a project supervisor to a well-performing electric cooperative. Benguet Electric Cooperative is known to have set the benchmark of the performance of electric cooperatives all over the country through a consistently competent leadership. Year after year, BENECO has hit the AAA rating, the highest mark an electric cooperative could receive from NEA itself. Why then did NEA appoint a project supervisor to interfere with the matters of the cooperative when clearly there is no need to, despite their shameless efforts to forcibly take over the headquarters and pressure the cooperative in giving in their demands? The employees, the member consumer owners of Benguet Electric Cooperative were able to take back what is rightfully theirs. More than anything, the member consumer owners of BENECO proved that it is possible to fight back without resorting to force and intimidation, without armed policemen and 3 a.m. surprise raids. Pero hindi pa rito natatapos ang mga bantang kinaharap ng BENECO mula sa NEA. Sa kasalukuyan, nanganganib ang pondo ng kooperatiba dahil sa mga unauthorized withdrawals ng NEA-appointed general manager sa corporate bank accounts ng Benguet Electric Cooperative. Just last December, a total of 58.6 million earmarked for the Sitio electrification program that would have subsidized the energization of remote areas of Benguet was withdrawn from BENECO's account without authorization from the management. Unfortunately, we will still bear witness to the continued disrespect and oppression by NEA if we allow them to get away with their actions without repercussions. Madam Speaker, I reiterate that NEA holds no authority and power to take over the management of BENECO unless they can sufficiently prove without a shadow of doubt that BENECO is an ailing cooperative in need of their intervention. But their excellent and dependable service to the Benguet community and consistent performance ratings cannot be invalidated by mere imputations to tarnish their reputation. The unlawful actions of NEA have done irreparable damage to the once harmonious relationship between them and the electric cooperatives, which they are tasked to protect and support. Lastly, I take grave offense at the NEA's blatant disrespect to the wisdom and decision of the people's representatives. Let me remind everyone here that these deplorable and unjust acts by NEA proceeded despite the result of the thorough investigation of the House Committee on Energy, as adopted in the resolution by all members of the House of Representatives, as if the House resolution is a mere scrap of paper that they can freely ignore. Bilang mga representante ng taong bayan, ang ating responsibilidad bilang mga miyembro ng Kamara ay hindi lang dapat makulob sa pagsulat ng mga batas, nararapat lamang na gamitin natin ang impluensya at boses na meron tayo para siguraduhin na walang constituent ang nalalamangan ng mga taong nasa kapangyarihan. We must ensure that no individual or institution suffer from the whimsical and arbitrary acts of those in power, of those who take advantage of position for personal agenda. Again, magandang hapon po sa ating lahat, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Presley De Jesus, Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move that we recognize Honorable Sara Ilago of Kabataan Party List for her interpellation.
Representative Sara Ilago is now recognized.
Maraming salamat, Madam Speaker. Will the Honorable De Jesus be open to respond to clarificatory questions from this youth representation?
Definitely, Madam Speaker.
Yes, Madam Speaker. Seeing armed personnel in the presentation of the Honorable De Jesus in an otherwise a civilian and non-government facility is indeed concerning. However, the law also gives the National Electrification Administration the power to step in and take over the operation of electric co-ops. Is this what happened in this instance, Madam Speaker? Can the Honorable De Jesus clarify this?
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and Congresswoman Ilago. Distinguished Congressman, tama po kayo. It is indeed provided in Republic Act 10531 or the National Electrification Administration Reform Act of 2013 that NEA can indeed step in and take over the operations of electric cooperatives. Allow me to read that specific part of the law. Section 7 of Republic Act 10531. A new section to be designated as Section 4-B is hereby inserted under Presidential Decree number 269 as amended to read as follows. Section 4B, step-in rights in cases of ailing cooperatives. The NEA shall immediately step in and take over from its Board of Operations of any ailing electric cooperatives. And then, on the fourth paragraph of this amendment, the NEA shall, in the exercise of its step-in rights under this act, strictly observe due process of law. The step-in rights may only be exercised by NEA in case of failure of the electric cooperative to meet operational and financial standards set by NEA or in another analogous instances set forth in the IRR of this act. Madam Chair, BENECO is one of the most efficient and successful distribution utilities. Electric cooperatives and private distribution utilities included in the entire country. There's no way that NEA can prove or justify that BENECO is ailing or it fails to meet operational and financial standards. So no, this is not what happened in the takeover of BENECO. The takeover was irregular at the very least and unlawful and anti-electric cooperatives, anti-member consumer owners, anti-people, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It was further mentioned that the armed police, about 50 of them, took over the facility at 3 in the morning. Did our colleague clarify from the relevant agency or authorities why the implementation was that irregular, if I may say, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and distinguished Congresswoman. Well, in addition to the investigations conducted by the local governments of Baguio and Benguet, this representation, together with my colleagues, Representatives Dagook, Representative Guya, and Congressman Edcas, requested a thorough investigation of this from Department of Interior and local government and the Philippine National Police on what happened. We wanted to hear their side first before jumping into conclusions. But Madam Speaker, my friend and colleague, we were provided with a one-page reply on our inquiry. We requested for a thorough investigation and we received that kind of reply. Are we satisfied? Definitely not. That is why this representation is standing in front of you, Madam Speaker, so that this concern, among other things, can be discussed not just here in the plenary, but by appropriate committees of this chamber.
Thank you for that information, Madam Speaker. In fact, I've been following this issue as well. And according to an official from NEA, contrary to the statement of the Honorable De Jesus, BENECO employees were not barred from going to work. They were the ones refused going to their offices, but they are allowed to do so. Can I have a clarification on this, Madam Speaker?
Thank you, Madam Speaker and distinguished Congresswoman. During the initial hours of the takeover, employees were not allowed to go inside the offices. We should understand, Madam Speaker, that the employees being accountable and responsible to BENECO's properties would want to check on what is happening, but they were not allowed to enter, and the CCTV cameras were even covered as if to prevent the recording of what is happening inside or what is being done by NEA. Now, on your question that they were allowed to enter, they were told that they will be allowed entry in the morning. But Madam Speaker, let's put ourselves in their situation. Heavily armed policemen guarding them. Computers and other paraphernalia were stolen. Again, CCTV cameras were covered. Checkpoints and inspections were implemented in the vicinity of the co-op's office, Madam Speaker. And these are all happening in a civilian, non-government, non-military office, an office that is supposedly owned by the people themselves. Do we blame them if they feared going inside their offices given that condition, Madam Speaker? The truth, Madam Speaker, is that the takeover and how they implemented it made BENECO a place where you would not want to be in, Madam Speaker, whether you were prohibited to report or not.
Madam Speaker, Honorable De Jesus also said that, and I quote, a total of 58.6 million pesos earmarked for the Sitio electrification program was withdrawn from BENECO's account without authorization from the management. End of quote. Did I hear that correctly, Madam Speaker? Pwede po ba nating linawin kung saan ba gagamitin ito? As far as we know, it is still a GM Mel Licoben, the one who was appointed by the Board of Directors of BENECO, who is still managing the affairs and operations of BENECO. The 58.6 million is the people's money. And we need to know how it was or is being used, Madam Speaker. If it is meant for the energization program of the EC, who has the power to use the fund to implement the program as funded by the government, who is accountable for this, Madam Speaker?
Thank you, Madam Speaker, distinguished Congresswoman. The 58.6 million pesos is for Sitio electrification program. Ito po ay pondo para sa mga kababayan nating sa malalayong lugar na pinagkait ng kuryente for the last 40 years. Ito po ay earmarked para pailawan sila at nandun na po ang pera para simulan na po ang kanilang pagpapailaw. Pero because of the illegal takeover, hindi po sila napailawan hanggang ngayon po. This chamber approved this for the member consumer owners of BENECO. The program can be implemented by BENECO alone, and the employees of BENECO get their instruction and marching order from GM Melikoben. The entire distribution system of BENECO is operated and controlled by people who take their order from GM Melikoben. So on your question, who has the power to use the fund to implement the program as funded by the government? It should be BENECO as managed by GM Likoben. But who is accountable for this? The unauthorized withdrawal was made by people appointed by NEA. They should explain to the people what they are doing with the money. The approved funding was meant to be used for energization, and NEA's appointed people should return this to BENECO so that they could implement the sitio electrification program. One of the objectives of this representation is to make them accountable for what they have done, among other things, Madam Speaker. May I just mention, Madam Speaker, just now, retirement check of an employee who just retired is not being honored by the bank since they wanted a signatory from the NEA appointee. Madam Speaker, the account is supposedly from the BENECO Employees Retirement Fund. This is no longer part of the BENECO funds, but funds for the employees' retirement. So these concerns, among others, are what we want investigated, Madam Speaker. Sobrang harassment na po ito, hindi lamang ng NEA, kundi pati na ang ibang ahensya. Nasaan na ang pangako ng gobyerno sa PD 269? And let me just read that. Because of their non-profit nature, cooperative character, and the heavily financial burdens that they must sustain to become effectively established and operational, viable electric cooperatives shall be given every tenable support and assistance by the national government, its instrumentalities and agencies to the fullest extent of which they are capable. But the opposite is happening, Madam Speaker. Ginigipit pa sila ng mga ahensya ng gobyerno. Thank you, Madam Speaker, distinguished Congresswoman.
And lastly, Madam Speaker, Representative De Jesus mentioned House Resolution number 213, which was adopted by this chamber. And one of the salient points and findings of the said resolution, and this was highlighted in the speech of Representative De Jesus, is that the National Electrification Administration is reminded of its commitment to the status quo under pain of contempt until all the issues on the selection of the GM of BENECO has been resolved. Clearly, Madam Speaker, they did not listen to the wisdom of this august chamber. And my question is, first, what is the reason NEA did not observe the status quo? And as a follow-up on this, Madam Speaker, what is our direction moving forward?
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and distinguished Congresswoman and my friend. On your question regarding NEA's failure to observe the status quo order in the resolution, the truth is your guess is as good as mine. Maybe they think they are above the law. Maybe they think that they are not subject to the principle of check and balance. I can only speculate at this time, Madam Speaker, in which case what needs to be done is for NEA and its unlawful appointees to held accountable to all of this. And let me include as well those instrumentalities and agencies that allowed this to happen. The PNP should be held accountable on the very irregular takeover of BENECO. Banks should be held accountable for allowing the unlawful withdrawals, and the Board of Administrators of NEA, including its appointees in BENECO, should be investigated further. I urge this chamber, its appropriate committees, to look into this mayhem. It's a good thing that GM Mel Coben, BENECO's Board of Directors, management staff, and even the member consumer owners are standing their ground and are able to face all the harassment being done by NEA. But this has got to stop, Madam Speaker. This needs to stop right now. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Congressman Sara Elago.
Yes, Madam Speaker, we join the Honorable De Jesus in the cause of his representation. We likewise support the resolution filed by Representative Azarate Yamat and Gaiti on this, calling on the House Committees on Energy and Co-op Development to jointly investigate this takeover of BENECO. Maraming salamat, Madam Speaker. Maraming salamat, Rep. De Jesus.
Thank you, Honorables De Jesus and Delago. Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move that the privileged speech of Representative Presley De Jesus and its interpellation be referred to the Committee on Rules.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The privileged speech is referred to the Committee on Rules.